All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ag Talk with Trey, me, Cade, and Carter. Carter couldn't be here today, and his segment will be added on after. Today, we'll be talking about GMOs and if they're good or bad. And Cade, what are you talking about?
I will be talking about the implications of using pesticides in production agriculture.
Awesome. We have some great conversations today. I forgot what Carter was going to talk about, but we will get to that. First, I'm going to start off with, are GMOs good or bad? First of all, you're probably wondering what a GMO is. GMO, first of all, the acronym stands for genetically modified organism. A GMO is a plant that has been genetically engineered in certain ways to introduce new traits. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to be calling it a GMO because that is a waste of air. These organisms can then be selectively bred into other things such as fruits and vegetables to keep their life on the shelf lasting longer. These GMOs are then evolved into the plant and they are used in everyday life. Next is, how are the GMOs created? A GM plant, a genetically modified plant, is created by transferring new DNA from a different plant into that plant. Scientists often start creating GMOs by searching for the right traits to transfer to an already existing plant. So they're going to look for a plant that is herbicide resistant. So it's not like, what's the word? Kate, give me a word for, it cannot die from Roundup. It is resistant to Roundup. Thank you. I solved that myself. Sorry. It's a late night here and we're getting our stuff together. After selecting a trait and genetically modifying it, the plant must be able to perform and go through almost 75 tests. These tests are making sure it is healthy for all humans, animals, and the environment. Then they are ready to be shipped out and put into your local stores to eat. Here are some good things about GMOs. I will introduce at least 3 ways GMOs are good for humans, animals, and the environment. GMO crop seeds have been modified over the years to increase the yield. The yield is how much your corn grows. So the more yield you have, you're going to have more money. And with this more yield, it's going to take up smaller amount of space, and it's going to save the farmers some money, and they will not have to go over their crop as many times with spray. Another good example of GMOs is the greater food security, meaning that food won't spoil as fast, like your fruits and vegetables, they won't spoil in the store, and they can be shipped to farther away places like Africa, where food is not as easy to come by. And lastly, another good thing about the use of GMOs is that it will support the world's ever-growing population. And to continue on with the good stuff, because there's all sorts of great things. Another reason GMOs were created was to reduce the loss of crops. Scientists made GMOs to be resistant to insect damage. For example, scientists modified crops to be resistant to African stalk borers because those borers just destroy the crop and the crop will fall over. Boom. GMOs fix everything. Another example of a GMO use is herbicide tolerance. Like I said earlier, if a plant has a tolerance to Roundup, you can spray your crops and your crops won't die and it'll kill the weeds. And now, finally, lastly, they modified a plant to be unaffected by plant viruses. There are so many good things about GMOs, it's hard to hate them. Karens that go to Whole Foods, you get a thumbs down. And now to the bad. Even though there's not a lot of bad things about GMOs, there are some speculations. Even though there are many good things about GMOs, there are also some bad things about them. GMOs are often misconceived as a bad thing because it's new and sciencey, and old farmers just like, oh, I don't know about it. But some say that GMOs can often lead to cancer, obesity, autism, or even infertility. Now, scientists have not proven that GMOs can cause those diseases, but they do cause some problems in the environment. For example, once a crop has been sprayed so many times by a Roundup, let's give for instance, weeds that grow between the crops become tolerant as well because they get a mutation and they become tolerant and you can't spray them, meaning you have to get a more drastic measure like dicamba to kill the weed. And now, GMOs in everyday life. In everyday life, it is impossible not to interact with GMOs, from food all the way to crops in the field. Many people do not know these specially made organisms are doing miracles. Corn and soybeans, seen all around Nance County, me, Kate, and Carter's home county, best darn place in Nebraska, has all the GMO crops. Without GMOs, our crops would not yield as much, making the world a lot more hungry, and farmers would not make as much money. And agriculture is the number one business in the USA. Now, I'd like to give you a challenge. Kate, can you tell me a GMO in your everyday life?
I have to say, that'd probably be corn.
Like I said, corn's everywhere in Nebraska. It's the greatest plant ever. And here are my personal thoughts on GMOs. After hours of researching and reading about GMOs, I have come to the conclusion that they are totally acceptable and we should research more about them. I've only heard positive stuff about this, and that cancer stuff I think is a bunch of baloney. It is crazy to think that in only 25 years, in the 1990s, the first GMO was created to help crops. It also has improved the environment and everything around us. I also believe that GMOs can be used to destroy or ruin things in the environment, but in the right hands, they will continue to benefit all crops, everything, organisms, and keep us Americans and everyone in the world healthy. To further my research, I did an interview with a local star football player, sophomore of Fullerton High School, and a local farm helper on the Lazy D Ron Dubas Ranch, Nolan Dubas. I asked Nolan these following questions about GMOs. I asked him, what are your thoughts on GMOs? He really didn't have a clue, but I gave him an insight, and he said that GMOs are pretty great and that he likes them. Secondly, I asked him if he were to become a farmer in the future, would he plan to use GMOs? This was his answer. He knows that GMOs will improve before he ever becomes a farmer. Nonetheless, he said he would consider it if it were to up his yields, like I've said that before. Lastly, I asked him, what do you see you doing? Okay, nice English. What do you see in the future of farming? He answered that he is farming continually, growing and becoming a more needed job with population rising. He agrees that farming is vital for our economy and is aware of the effects it has on our everyday lives. And that was all from Nolan Dubas. He was a great guy. You should get to know him. And for my conclusion, today I've talked about what a GMO is, how they were made, the pros and cons, and my thoughts on how they are used. The future of agriculture will only grow with the use of GMOs. So for people to say that they cause all sorts of problems is wrong, and they should look at all the facts, not fiction. So go out on your own and research about these tiny helpers and see their true value. I hope you learned something useful in this presentation, and thank you for listening. Now I'm going to pass it on to Cade Russell, who's talking about...
I will be talking about the implications of using pesticides in production agriculture.
Awesome. Get to it.
Before we get to that, we will be right back with this one short ad.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Hi, I'm Al Harrington, President and CEO of Al Harrington's Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man Emporium and Warehouse. Thanks to a shipping error, I am now currently overstocked on Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Men, and I am passing the savings on to you! Attract customers to your business. Make a splash at your next presentation. Keep grandma company. Protect your crops. Confuse your neighbors. Testify in church or just raise the roof. Whatever your wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man needs are. So come on down to Al Harrington's Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man Emporium and Warehouse, Route 2 in Weekapaug!
All right, everybody, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that ad. All right, now back to Cade Russell on why pesticides are bad and good.
Hello, Trey. Today I will be answering and explaining the question, what are the implications of using pesticides in production agriculture? The definition of pesticides is a substance that controls pests in agriculture. These substances include insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, rodenticides, molluscicides, nematicides, and etc.
That's a lot.
The production of pesticides began in India in 1952 with the establishment of the production for the BHC near Calcutta. India is now the second largest manufacturer for pesticides in Asia and 12th globally. There has been a major growth in production of the pesticides from 5,000 metric tons in 1958 all the way to 102,240 metric tons in 1998. These numbers will continue to grow, and that is why this question is so pressing in our economy today. The purpose of pesticides in agriculture are used to control a variety of pests, weeds, and disease carriers that include mosquitoes, mice/rats, and ticks. Mosquitoes can spread malaria, rats can carry various infections, and ticks can spread typhus. Controlling these pests around crops can also help stop the spread of these dangerous diseases. There are more than 30,000 species of weeds that are threatening crops. Weeds can stunt plant growth and even damage plants. Weeds in dryland crops can reduce the overall yield from 37 to 79%. Severe infestation of weeds, particularly in the early stages of the crops, can account for a yield reduction of 40%. There are also more than 10,000 insects that feed off the plants. Crops can even be damaged after being harvested and put into storage. Insects, rodents, and mold are all the threats to that. With the major increase in crop yields, we have had increases in food production. These all sound beneficial towards the people and not the farmers themselves. However, pesticides help the farmers make better profits and also save a lot of work instead of having to pull the weeds and remove the pests themselves.
Sorry to interrupt you, but do you happen to know like a famous pesticide that's used in America today or in Nance County?
Yes, that would be Roundup.
Awesome.
Okay, and pesticides can be very helpful throughout the agriculture industry. However, there are major impacts that can result from the use of these chemicals. Even though pesticides are normally used on land, many times they will make their way into water sources. These can include rivers, ponds, or even oceans. These chemicals can contaminate the water source and kill fish and other aquatic animals. They can also leach their way into a groundwater source. People depend on water sources for drinking supply, and if contaminated, it will be unsanitary and unsafe to drink. Upon spraying pesticides, it will turn into a gas or vapor, allowing it to travel through the air. This can also damage and hurt wildlife. Not only are these hazardous to wildlife, but they are also hazardous to people. Many fruits grown by farmers and put on shelves can have up to 30 different pesticides on them. Studies show that pesticides have been linked to cancer, Alzheimer's, ADHD, and even birth defects. They've also been prone to harming the nervous system, the reproductive system, and the endocrine system. Although these hazards may seem a bit frightening, one fruit with pesticides won't kill you. When they do build up in your body, they can be dangerous to your health and should be avoided. And next, I will be going on with my interview with my father. And I start off by interviewing him, and he is a CVA salesman and Fullerton generational farmer.
I'm sorry, what's your father's name?
Thad Russell.
Okay.
And I asked him his thoughts and opinions on the use of pesticides in production agriculture, and he explained that there are many things that pesticides impact when using them in agriculture. Pesticides protect our goods from harmful bugs and pests while also making sure our product's ending result is the best it can be. The government is always pressuring farmers to refrain from the use of pesticides because of its implications. Pesticides can cause important insects such as bees or monarch butterflies to die due to the chemicals in certain products. The government has put restrictions on pesticides due to the fear of it affecting our food in a negative way. Our economy believes in high-quality food without the use of pesticides. It is unrealistic to think this way considering we use pesticides to better our food in many ways. We use pesticides to increase our productivity on the farm as well as the overall outcome of our products. While pesticides can affect our environment in some negative ways, we implicate them into farming because it helps us overall achieve our prime productivity rate. Today I talked about the implications of using pesticides in production agriculture. I talked about the benefits and hazards of using pesticides. I have learned quite a bit through this research assignment regarding pesticides and its impact on our lives. I think that overall, pesticides are used in our everyday sources of food. Without pesticides, farm would lose productivity and overall efficiency of their products. Thank you for listening.
All right, nice job, Kate. I could really see what you're getting at there with the pesticides. And next is Carter after the ad, and he will be talking about should the H2A program be more accessible to producers and employers. I'm really looking forward to it. Catch you later.
Whoa, this is awful. Try it.
Oh, no, that looks gross. What is that?
You gotta try it. It's terrible.
I don't want to try it if it's terrible.
It's like mango chutney and burnt hair.
No, thank you. I have a very sensitive palate.
Just try it.
Guys, I think we should hurry up.
If you taste something bad, you want someone else to try it. It's what you do.
I can't get the taste out of my mouth.
If you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico. It's what you do.
Shh, dog.
Dog, 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 dog.
All right, welcome back. We'll now be talking about Carter's topic of why the H2A program should be more accessible to producers and employers. Take it away, Carter.
Hello everyone, my name is Carter Meisberg, and today I'll be talking about the H2A program and if it should be more accessible to producers and employers. Employers in the United States have often faced a shortage of available domestic workers who are able and or willing and qualified to fill seasonal agricultural jobs. The H2A program was instituted to meet this need for seasonal and temporary labor without adding permanent residents to the population. First off, I'll give you a feel for what the H2A program is. So what is the H2A program? The H2A Temporary Agricultural Program allows agricultural employers who are short of domestic workers to bring non-immigrant foreign workers to the U.S. to perform agricultural labor or service. They usually work temporary or of a seasonal nature. So going off of that, of what the H2A program actually is, the H2A program is actually managed by 3 different federal agencies. So according to DHS.gov, the H2A program is managed by 3 different federal agencies. So first off is the Development of Labor, or DOL. The DOL issues the H2 labor certificates and oversees compliance with labor laws. Second is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS. The USCIS adjudicates the H2 petitions. And lastly, the Department of State, or DOS. So the DOS issues the visas to the workers at consulates overseas. Now that you have a feel for what the H2A program is and the 3 federal agencies that control the H2A program, I will tell you how it came to be. So, how did the H2A program come to be? According to Primer, Evolution of the H2A Program, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 established the H2 non-immigrant visa program, under which temporary foreign workers were admitted to the United States to perform temporary and seasonal employment. However, the origins of the current H2A program can be traced back to the Reagan administration. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 amended the Immigration and Nationality Act to separate the pre-existing H2 visa program into the H2A for agricultural workers and the H2B for seasonal non-agricultural employment. So, after hearing about that, I actually watched a YouTube video about this guy named Shay, who asked 6 different people from Mexico who actually worked through the H2A program, and he wanted to get their input about it. So according to the YouTube video I watched, Shay, an American citizen, interviewed 6 people who worked through the H2A program and wanted to know what they thought of it. All 6 candidates were from Mexico and came to America to work for a little over minimum wage, about $13.50. Shay asked them all how the conditions were in Mexico. They said that it was very horrible and working hard jobs in hard conditions for little to no pay. Compared to America, they said, the conditions were a lot better, but the jobs were the same difficulty. The difference was the pay. It was very interesting to hear their point of view on the program. Another thing that Shay asked was some pros and cons about the H2A program. They said the H2A program is a great opportunity for us to make much more money than before to help our families in Mexico. The bad thing about it is that we have to leave our families for 3 to 5 months without seeing them. And I do think that it would be hard to leave your family for a long time, but at least you would be getting something out of it in the long run. And most of these these candidates from Mexico actually wanted to make more money because they actually wanted to build houses for themselves and their family in Mexico, which, like they said, it was impossible to do it unless they had more money. I also myself interviewed a farmer who actually got some workers from the H2A program. So I asked him, what is your opinion on the H2A program? He said, the program is good for workers in less fortunate countries, but the bad situation is for American companies and the government forcing the immigrants to work for the U.S. The second question I asked was, have you ever considered having workers through the H2A program? And he said, I have and currently do have workers through the H2A program. It has been very beneficial and great for me to get some more help. And it is just bad just because of the fact that they have to come to work because they can't find work anywhere else in their home country. The third question I asked was, would you consider having more workers through the H2A program? And he said, yes, I will keep using the H2A program for as long as I have to. In conclusion, the H2A program is a great thing for farmers and agricultural workers to get some help. I believe that the H2A program should and will be more accessible to producers and employers in the future. Thank you.
All right, amazing speech, Carter. I could really get at your topic there. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day. We'll be back next week with some more bullcrap.